All right. So if you haven't had a chance to finish up your lab assignment, don't freak out. You still got another 7 days to do it. Most of you guys were able to get it done today, which is pretty great. It's going to be a fun project, okay? And I think one of my big plans, now that we're kind of getting into the meat of the course, you're going to find that we'll be focusing on a workflow, on a technique. This radial sweep technique is an excellent, excellent, excellent way for us to very, very quickly get some shapes created, okay? And still preserve the editability and the function of the geometry as well. So we're going to do a lot of these little exercises every single week that focus on a technique. But at times, we also need to focus on the big picture, okay? The sculptures that we're creating. And our homework this week is going to allow us to apply some really neat ideas, okay? One of which you've already done with the radial sweep. We're going to build upon this duplication system this week and start talking about cloning and arrays, okay? Your homework this week is going to be a bicycle. And as I was jokingly saying a minute ago, Mama Bird is kicking you out of the nest. I'm not giving you anything for this assignment. It's now your turn to start picking up where we left off, okay? And to start choosing what you want to model. The days of me telling you what to model, those are over. Yay! Now you get to make your own models for the rest of the semester. And so you get to choose what you're going to model, how they're going to look. But there's always going to be some sort of context that we're going to be building our models within. And this week, since we're talking about duplication, we're going to be making a bicycle. And it also allows us to continue to galvanize and strengthen our subdivision surface modeling skill set, okay? A bicycle, what basic simple shapes are we going to find in a bicycle? Circles and cylinders, right? So it's going to be pretty easy to block this stuff out. However, there are some other really unique shapes in there, like the pedals, the gears. Those are also kind of cylindrical, but they're kind of strange, okay? The seat, some of the brake elements that you'll absolutely want to add into the mesh itself are going to allow you to continue to think about how we can take these tools and conceptually apply them to make really organic shapes, like a brake, okay? That's an interesting idea, isn't it, right? A challenge nonetheless. Now, finding good reference for a bicycle is really, really, really easy. We want to continue at every single stage of this practicing our craft. And the first step on every assignment, okay, is to do research, okay? Is to do some reference research. We all know what a bicycle looks like, okay? However, if we were to try to make a bicycle without any sort of imagery to support us, it's going to look nothing like a bicycle at the end of the day. So these reference and this research is going to help strengthen the final result. So it really is as easy as going to the Googs, okay, google.com, get me a bicycle. Dun-dun-dun-dun. Okay, I don't want to, just want images. Boom. If you have a hard time finding reference for a bicycle, just watch the live stream. I've given you about 50 of them pretty quickly, okay? Now, one of the challenges that we have when choosing our own reference is finding imagery that will work inside of our modeling pipeline. And let me see if I can find a really great example. This is a pretty awesome mountain bike. Yeah, that's pretty sweet, okay? However, that's a bad reference image. Let's look at it real fast. The Ozone 500 Men. This is a cool bicycle, right? I wish I had this bike. This is fun, okay? However, this is a really bad image to model to. Why? It's in perspective, right? We don't want to model with perspective images. If you look very carefully at the picture, of course, the front tire is in the foreground. The back tire starts to get a little smaller. So this isn't an image that we can use in Moto. However, it's still a really good image to keep inside of our bucket, right, in our folder. You know, we have to turn into little mini subject matter experts when it comes to this, right? We have to be masters of what this thing is, because if you don't understand what it is that you're looking at, how in the world are you ever going to make a model of it, right? The computer is not going to help you, right? That's the first myth of all computer graphics that I wish we would just like dispel immediately, is that the computer doesn't do anything for us. It's just tools. We're the artists. We're the ones that need to take an image like this and start building a model from it. So we can't model with it, but we can still use it as part of our collection of reference research, okay? Because from these perspective images, we get a really good idea of maybe some things that are difficult to understand in an orthographic view, like how long the pedal is or how wide the tire is, right? These perspective images are handy to have We just can't really use them as backdrop images over in Moto to produce, the final result. Now, I absolutely suggest that you find a model, okay, and then stick with it, right? If you can get a name, a make, a model, a serial number, that helps you get more reference images on that object. Shoot, if you have a bike at home that you use, to ride to school every day, that's an excellent thing to build. Build your own bike, right? Because then if you have a question, you just go out to your garage or wherever you keep your bike, look at it and go, oh, it's this wide, and that's what I need to add there. It's going to be really easy to figure out the spatial relationships between all these parts and pieces if you can actually see the object sitting right in front of you. Okay. Now, if you're struggling to find some good reference, well, you shouldn't, because there's just trillions of pictures online. Okay. Here's a great resource going forward, and this is our go-to. It's called theblueprints.com. Okay. I love this website. I've been going to this website for a long time. I got 81,000 blueprints of objects inside of this space. Okay. Yeah, if they don't have a blueprint for it, it probably doesn't exist. So if you go into the blueprints database, they have it all lovely categorized. So you got cars, motorcycles, planes, trains, and automobiles. Everything that you could possibly imagine is in here. Okay, even Star Wars stuff. Okay, so go crazy. It's a great resource. I'm not sure if they have bicycles. Let's do a search.
No, they have very few bicycles.
Where'd you guys find it?
I just found it under bike. I looked up bicycles.
Under motorcycles?
You have to go past vector. What it has for me is other miscellaneous and other.
Here we go.
That's all vector.
Yeah. What's this one look like? Oh, this is the category. You got to click on to get the. Yeah, here's the image. Let's see. That's not a bad example. Probably downhill mountain bike. Yeah. So this one's all vector. The way they make money is by selling you a vector drawing of the blueprint itself. So what you're looking for, and they're quite expensive actually. What you're looking for is one that's not vector, and all of these are vector, and they are probably. Let's see. They are probably filtering their search to give you all of the blueprints that are vector first.
Yeah, and then next week.
Yeah. Because let's see. Where is this? It's under miscellaneous. Let's go into miscellaneous. Let's get out of the search. So miscellaneous, and then I've already forgotten. Consoles, clothing, other. Yeah. Here we go. Driving helmet. I don't know if this is a focused bicycle. That's not it. Anyways, check it out. It's pretty cool. Here's a mountain bike. Yeah, these are all vectors, but you can find a lot of other things. You can find just regular bitmap images. For example, if we go into, I'm going to do it because I'm a Star Wars nerd. X-Wing, let's see. No, they're no longer doing, hey, let's just do something. Oh, I'm in the vector drawing section, not the blueprints database. Let's go as an other, miscellaneous, other. Let's see if this may be, yeah, okay, this is what I'm used to. I was in the wrong section. If you're in the vector drawing, see, they're sneaky. They really are, because they're trying to get you to buy something off the site, right? They're trying to get you to buy these vector drawings. When you do a search, it's only searching the vector drawing section of the website. Let's see if we can find that downhill bike again. Yeah, well, this one they only have the vector drawing available. But I don't know, what's this thing? That's cool. I have no idea. Here's a camera, which is neat. Here's a Jedi Starfighter. Yes, that's not. Oh, it has the hyperspace ring on there too. Okay, cool. So if you're using stuff on this website, you have to log in. The login's free. And then what you can do is that you can download the full-size image. This is not the full-size image, okay? This is a preview thumbnail. So if you log in, make an account, you can download the full-size image. The account, making a user account is absolutely free, and then you can start working and finding stuff off the site, okay? We're going to come back to this, and you should start looking maybe on the site. If you want to do a hard surface object for your final project, start doing some reference research now on your final project. I know that's like 2 months away, but still, we can start the collection of images that will support your final project. This is a good place to go. All right, so you're going to be choosing, you're going to be designing your own bicycle. Here's the big picture idea, and it's very similar to that of the basic training. If you can see it in the reference image, it was important enough of a detail for the artist to draw it, so you should look to model it, okay? If it's big enough to show up in the reference, you should model it, right? Because that's geometric information that's required to understand the basic shape profile of whatever it is that you're trying to model. So if you can see it in the reference, you want to try to make a model of it, right? We want to try to create these models as believably as we can, right? But we also want to work smart, okay, not hard. There are some elements within inside the bike some repeating elements that we can maybe use a more advanced duplication engine to really get a handle of, okay? Now, we saw a little bit of our duplication engine earlier with our radial sweep. I wanted to extend that a little bit today and start talking about cloning and arrays, okay? Because this is really where the power of the Moto modeling toolset comes in. We don't want to work hard, we want to work smart. So by extending our toolset ever so slightly, we can start making some really good models. As an example, let's pretend that we're going to be making the tire of our bicycle. Now, in the construction of the tire of the bicycle, maybe there's some repeating elements like the spokes or the gear, you know, if you're for the actual bike gears themselves, or a pattern that shows up on top of the bike pedal. Okay. Huh? Or the tire pattern, absolutely. You can actually model geometry for the tread. That's a great idea, right? So the point being is that we're going to have opportunities in the future to model something and then duplicate it a number of times, okay? This is called cloning, and we're also doing some radial arrays, okay? Let's start off with the radial array. So I'm going to make a simple little tire, okay? Now, in addition to working with some really advanced tools, we also want to make sure that we're continuing to work with the grid itself, okay? Because the origin of our scene can be a big helper, right? Much like we did with our radial sweep, if we use the origin, we now can make duplicate copies that are exactly, you know, centered around a very central pivot point. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to make my little tire here. I'm going to look through the front of my scene, okay? And I think I'm just going to create a cylinder. Let's change the number of sides to 24. So make it pretty good looking, okay? Now before I go any further with this, I'm going to center it. Center it along all. So now it's just chilling right there at the middle of the origin of our scene, which is what I want, okay? Now, we need to start making the actual tire itself. So here's kind of a great little trick, something that I've been doing a long time. I like to paint, I like to model in 2D for as long as I can. So now I'm trying to figure out maybe the thickness of my tire. Right about there, sure, why not, okay? I drop the tool, and then I'm going to delete that center polygon, and I'm left with a gigantic ring, okay? Just a two-dimensional shape. It's looking pretty great. How can I transform this two-dimensional shape into a three-dimensional shape? Yeah, extrude is fantastic, right? We love you, the extrude tool. I'm going to close the door so Kim can see the screen. I'm having a hard time seeing the screen with all the light spill coming in from the door. All right, so yeah.
How did you get that to the delete where it's just that little part?
Yeah, so this is what I started with, right? Just a circle, and then I beveled it in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, pretty much, right? So just Shift X to run extrude, and now I'm starting to define the thickness of my tire. Now, when I extruded it forward along the Z-axis, I actually lost its reference to the origin of the scene, right? This object is no longer centered inside the scene. I want to keep it perfectly centered at the origin for as long as I can. So if you look carefully and you can see it, I extruded the shape forward to the left. This dark line is the center of my Z-axis. So I'm going to select everything once again and center it, but this time I'm not going to choose center all. I'm going to choose center along the Z-axis, okay? And now it's symmetrically placed perfectly right down the middle of my origin, which is going to help because we want to use the origin as a modeling tool. It's just not just a location for our tool handles to go. It can actually be a member of our modeling sequence if we allow it to be. Okay? Let me show you a continuation of that idea. This is not looking like a tire at all. This is maybe like this is the tire. Now I need to create the wheel. You guys know that there's a tire and there's a wheel, right? What's the wheel made out of? Yeah, metal. That's the metal part, the wheel, right? The tire is the rubber part. So let's start going in and doing some additional beveling on this inside loop to start creating the illusion of the wheel itself. All right, so I want to bevel this in, maybe just a little bit. Hold down Shift, do another bevel. Yeah, there we go. Shift, click again. And one final little curve there. That's good. Yep, I'm liking, that's a good direction to go in. If I do some beveling on the outside of the wheel, some edge beveling now, I can start creating the illusion of a tire. There we go. Of course, same on the inside. I know you're probably saying, Pat, are you really going to do small little bevels? Yes. Yes, I am. You can even do multiples at the exact same time. There we go. And that's beginning to look a little bit more like a tire. Yeah, I'm liking this. Hit the tab key to subdivide it. Yep, that's looking pretty banging. I'm liking that. That's a good direction to go in, right? The subdivision surface algorithm is going to take us from looking pretty angular and faceted to looking incredibly smooth. So we want to continue applying that. It's also going to give you some freebies, okay? If you look very carefully, now it starts to look like this outside shape here, oops, is bowing in and is being held by all this metal stuff on the inside, okay? It's kind of a nice little freebie. This is like a performance tire, not like a mountain bike tire. Does anyone do any like mountain biking or bike racing? Yeah. I used to do some mountain biking. I don't do bike racing anymore. But anyways, some racing stuff. So this is starting to look pretty good. I'm pretty pleased with this. This is the tire. This is the wheel. But now, of course, we need to have a spoke. We need to have a whole series of spokes coming out of some sort of central axle in the wheel itself. Now, luckily for us, we were smart modelers, and we modeled this wheel at the origin of our scene, right? So we have a common reference point inside of our three-dimensional space that will allow us to create these spokes really easily. Let me show you what I'm talking about, okay? So once again, I'm going to create an additional cylinder. Oops, excuse me, wrong view. All right. Initially, I don't care where I create it because I can always just use that center selected command to get me where I'm going. Let's also extrude it out. Let's look at it from the front. I don't want it to be initially too much bigger than the width of my tire, somewhere right around in there. There we go. And for giggles, and I'm just doing this off of memory because this is not going to be right. But most axles have a big central nut like that. Yeah, that'll do for what we're doing. And I'm going to be a 3D modeler here for a second. I'm sorry, I can't not be a 3D modeler. There we go. Oh, that's better. Yeah, okay, there we go. Whew, now that's looking a little bit more mechanical. Okay, so I want to have, so these polygons in here in my imagination, this is where it's going to connect to maybe the yoke or the frame of the bike. Okay, but I want to have a whole series of little spokes coming out of that central axle piece, like it would, okay? And we're going to use the origin and the power of our Moto modeling system to create this spoke system very, very quickly. Now, I want to have a whole bunch of these, and I really don't know how many I need, but I don't want to create, and I certainly don't want to copy and paste one a zillion times. I want to use the computer to help me. So I want to create one, and then I'm going to duplicate that in a circle using the radial array command. So let's initially make our spoke prototype. As one might imagine, it's going to be a cylinder. Let's put down the number of edges to 12. Okay. And like with most things, the bevel tool gives us some basic shape. Okay. I'm not too concerned about the size at the moment. There we go. Just trying to generally get it in position. And now that I have it in position, I can start making it smaller. Now, these are going to be spokes. Last time I checked, they're pretty small, something like that. That's usually a good direction to go in. I'm going to open up my preview render real fast, F9. Oops, excuse me. I hit the wrong button. I wanted F8, excuse me. Now the reason I'm doing this is that I want to put my model in the camera lens as fast as I can. I'm trying to establish proportion here of the spoke itself. The danger that we run into when we're working with really small items is that sometimes we make them so small that we can't understand their function, okay? And they'll turn into like 1 pixel in the render, which is not going to look good. It's going to flicker. It's never going to render well. So we want to, I'm just kind of doing a spot check. I'm looking at the spoke and the size relationship to the axle and the tire and seeing if I'm kind of in the ballpark of where I need to be. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. It looks like it's showing up pretty well. I think if I have a whole bunch in there, it's definitely going to read a little bit more directly as a spoke. Mechanically speaking, Shift A to zoom in. Let's do this. I'm going to do Shift H. What does Shift H do? Does anyone remember? It's going to hide the unselected polygons. So I got my spokes selected, so Shift H is going to hide everything else. And it's going to leave me with just the spoke, which is going to give me access to that little edge loop down there, which is what I was after because I wanted to make some changes. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I want to make a little connector. And it's really as simple as this. I'm going to recycle our slicing tools that we were talking about last week. I want it to be a little bit bigger at the base, as if there's maybe a big piece of metal and the spoke was welded onto that big piece, and the big piece is really what's attaching it to the axle itself. So this is the polygon that I want, or the polygons that I want to slice. Okay, somewhere right around in there. I want it to be pretty big, pretty tall. Yeah, I'm happy with that. I turned off the visibility of my wireframes. For that, I apologize. Yeah, that's pretty good. Now I'll simply bevel it out. There we go. Chamfer that down. I want this to be a little bit larger of a transition, so I'm going to move that down. Yeah, and that's starting to feel a little bit more mechanical. Let's see how it reads. Yep, I'm not going to put any more detail in there because you can see it, but not enough for me to warrant any more detail. Okay, I try to get things in lens as fast as I can because that usually tells me how much more detail I need to add to make this look believable. Okay, some folks, when you're in, this is kind of the uncanny valley. The big problem that we have in 3D is that I can get as close to that little spoke as I want, right? I can get all up in there. And from this view, when I am millimeters away from the actual object, my modeling brain is saying, hey, you know what I need to do? I need to grab this, and I need to bevel it out. I'll keep, put the edge round level to 0 and all that jazz. And ooh, that looks really good when it's up close. But the reality of the situation is that we're never going to get that close, right? So I just added a tremendous amount of geometry into an area that doesn't have any direct benefit on the render itself, right? You're never going to see it, okay? Which is why having this little preview window open and accessible to us is a good idea. Okay. All right. So this is starting to look pretty good. I'm going to do something similar to the top. Yeah, for this top bit, let's see. Yep, change of mind. Kind of flare up. Yeah, maybe a little too big. We'll put this right up here into the wheel. Yep, I botched the size, but that's okay. We can make things smaller. Somewhere right around there. Yeah, that's pretty good. I'm happy with that. And that looks like a believable connector. Yep, no more than that. That's good enough. I actually may need to make it a little bit more chunky down here at the bottom just to make sure that it's readable. Grab the wrong edge loops. Maybe the flare goes the other direction just to make sure it's fun. Nah, that looks stupid. Okay. All right. All right, so there it is. There's one of my spokes, okay? There's one of my spokes. Now I need a whole bunch of these. I'm not going to do this by hand. I'm not going to sit here and copy one, paste it, rotate it. I got to figure out like how many angles to rotate it, and no. I'm sitting in front of a thinking machine. I want the computer to do the heavy lifting for me. I'm just fundamentally not interested in doing that. I'm an artist. I'm not a math guy, right? You know, it's we should be thankful that I don't have to do math, okay? Yeah, I make 3D models of spaceships. If I actually had to send someone to the moon, I'd really, really, really feel bad for that person because they would not make it in one piece. Yeah, exactly, right. All right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start duplicating things, and we're going to duplicate things along a couple different axes. Okay. We're going to start by doing some duplications in circles, much like we did earlier with our radial sweep. The tool that we're going to use to make all the spokes on our wheel real fast is called radial array. And it's pretty neat. I think you're going to like radial array. Check it out. Now we want to continue to use the origin as a part of our modeling sequence. We know that the tire and the wheel are centered around the origin. The axle is centered around the origin. So as I duplicate my spoke, it'd be great if it also got duplicated around the origin so that the duplication array is absolutely dialed and perfectly centered around the axle and the wheel. Okay? If you make one that's perfect, the duplicates will also look the same if we continue to use the power of the origin action center. So let's just do it. Action center is going to be set to origin. Let's grab my spoke and head over to our duplication tools. This is what we were working with earlier for our lab, the radial sweep, but down here at the bottom is where we find radial array, and they work very similarly to each other. We're going to make a duplicate around a central point, okay? Since we changed our action center to origin, that central point is going to be the origin of our 3D grid. And like the radial array, we turn the tool on, and then simply we click. Now, some of you guys ran into this problem earlier, okay? It's this axis. Right now, I'm duplicating everything around the y-axis, right, which is not giving me the result that we're after. Let's see what happens when we start to explore these different axes. There's the x. Aha! That's sweet. It's pretty cool. But I think what we want is z. Pretty neat, huh? Pretty neat. Now, before we drop the tool, there's some things in here that are really important to point out on the modeling side. Now, I got lucky, and sometimes luck will beat skill and cunning every single time, okay? If you look at the distance between each one of the spokes down there at the bottom, there's no sort of interpenetration, which I like, okay? It looks like these are individually welded on little spokes. I like that. I got lucky. So just do a spot check down there at the bottom. If the tool is still live, if one of these are penetrating into each other, you know, like that, okay, just change the count. That's going to determine the distance between each one of the duplicates and how many duplicates you create inside the circle. 24 was pretty great. Maybe I only have 8 spokes on the wheel. That'd be a pretty weak wheel, right? Isn't that what the spokes of the wheel does? It gives it some rigidity across the entire circumference of the circle. Let's put it back to 24. That seemed to work out for me pretty well. And there it is. Some other features of this tool that I want you to be aware of, because this is one of our big challenges here in an open lab environment like this, is that you never know who comes in and monkeys with all these tools, right? You could have some, web designer messing around with Moto, and they break all of our tools, and they don't remember that, they need to reset the tool. So you need to be aware of these options just in case you go over into the design lab and it's different than what you see in here, okay? A couple things that folks tend to mess around with. Like radial sweep, we have a start angle and an end angle, okay? So if we only wanted to go, 180 degrees, we can certainly do that. That's pretty sweet. Now we have 24 copies inside of this one shape, okay? That's pretty neat. Oops, hit undo. Let's run the radial array one more time. Let's put it back to 360. Now, you can actually go further than 360. Some folks don't realize the power of this. Like, why would you do 720? On the surface, it doesn't seem like a really value-added kind of proposition. But check it out. If we pair the end angle with an offset, watch what we can create. And this kind of speaks to the power of the radial array. We now can create helixes, okay, like a spiral staircase. So look where the original is. It's in the origin of our scene, basically, centered along the z and the x-axes. But if I increase the offset, every duplicate is going to get pushed that way. Okay? It's pretty cool, huh? This is how you do like spiral staircases and helixes. Yeah, question, go ahead. There it is, really pushed out. Yeah, you can kind of see it down here from the bottom. And now if I increase the end angle to 720, so 2 complete revolutions, let's double the number of duplicates to 48. Yeah. Now they kind of get this really great helix effects. It's kind of a trippy bike. So the offset amount should be at 0, and the end angle should be at 360. Okay, those are 2 things that people change a lot. Okay, it's a pretty neat tool. Now, once you drop the tool, all of our duplication commands just poof, go away. Okay, so be very confident with the number that you're duplicating and how you're duplicating before you drop the tool.
For the count, like when it's set to 24, does that mean there's 24 total, or is there 25 total?
Good question. Yeah, good question. Let's return to the tool, and the properties of the tool will help us understand. Okay. There's actually 24. Okay. This right here is kind of a great way to ensure that there's 24, right? Replace source, because now the original one is just kind of is the template, but it's not being used during the evaluation. Let me see. Let's do an odd number. That may be the way to, let's do 13. Well, let's see. I'm trying to get that one away from its original position. I may not be able to do it. Yeah, because that's the start location. In certain situations, you'll be able to see it pretty easily. This is a bad example of what replace source is actually doing. But you are, in fact, getting the number that's defined here. Oops, excuse me. So you are getting 24. Okay. Yep, looking good. All right. So if you oopsed, if you made a mistake, you don't have too many, okay, or you don't have enough, okay, what you get at the outcome of this entire tool set are true polygons. So if you wanted to get rid of all the duplicates, it'll take some energy, but not too much. I'm just going to select the stuff that I want to keep and then invert my selection. You guys remember how to invert your selection? To flip it? Yeah, it's the open braces key, the one next to the P key. P is in polygon. So we can flip the selection and then delete the ones that we don't want and then redo the operation. Okay? All right, that's pretty cool, huh? It's pretty fun. I like that a lot. Okay? Now, some other things that we'll definitely want to look at as we go through our duplication engine is looking at the clone tool. Now, now I'm going to do a really, really bad job of this, okay? Because I don't have a picture in front of me, but I'll try my best, okay? Maybe this is going to be the bike pedal itself. I know my bike pedals look something like this. Actually, hold on a sec. I'm going to loop slice to divide it in half. Count of 1, mode of symmetry. Now I've basically have 2 different sections over here. I'm going to turn off the grid because its visibility is getting in the way. Okay. This is a really big bike pedal, but imagine. We're going to pretend today. Okay. So now I have 2 different sections. Check it out. I'm going to grab those polygons. I'm going to run bevel. Now with bevel on, it's going to treat them as 1, which really isn't kind of what I'm after, right? I want to have a square here, another square here, and same on the bottom. So if we turn group polygons off, watch this. This is kind of neat. Now it's going to bevel each polygon individually, okay? It's not going to look at them as a unit, as a group. It's just going to go ahead and bevel each polygon, okay? Yeah, and let's just pretend that's what I'm after. I'm happy with that. And I'm going to bridge those. Oops. Let's do one at a time. There we go. To give you a little bit more focus and idea of how this works or what it is that I'm doing here. This will be where the pedal comes out, the little peg. All right. This is Pat's Moto Trick of the day, and this is a good one. This is why I choose, or one of the reasons why I choose to do all of my asset creation in Moto. This is awesome. I have a modeling challenge in front of me. I have the little peg that's going to attach to the actual pedals themselves. That little circle, the cylinder needs to be perfectly centered inside the end of the pedal. Okay? Huh? So this needs to be centered in that polygon. I could do it by eye. Pat doesn't do it by eye, right? We don't do that, right? I can sit here and just kind of noodle it to death. Yeah. No. Right? I like exact. I don't like kind of close. I like exactly close. Okay? That's how I roll, as they say. Okay? So here's what we're going to do. And this is pretty neat. If you remember, going back to, I think, week 1 or week 2, we talked a little bit about the work plane itself. And the work plane is an interactive snapping grid, okay, where all of our tools are going to reference. One of the tools that is referenced by the work plane is center selected. So check this out. I got this polygon selected, and if I just simply click on the work plane button, it's going to align the work plane to the selected polygon. Bloop. Okay. Now I turned the visibility of my work plane off just a minute ago. Let's turn it back on. It's impossible to see on the projector, but it is right there. Now the center of the work plane, so the origin of the work plane has been placed in the center of the selected polygon. Now watch what happens now. Here, and I'll just really push this out of the way. Watch what happens now when I do center selected. Center selected all, bloop. That circle goes to the middle of the work plane. Okay? It's a great way to very quickly and accurately align different shapes to each other without having to go through this whole like snapping regimen. I mean, it's just boom, find the center of the polygon, center another polygon to the center of the work plane. It works really well. Now the danger of all of this is that we got to make sure that we reset the work plane back to its original location. So we got to turn it off. Otherwise, all of our tools will look very odd because they all reference the location of the work plane. All right, so that's cool. I'm digging this. This is looking pretty rad. There it is. Okay, so that's my little bike pedal. Okay, it's all facing the wrong way. Here, just so we have some continuity. There we go. Okay. It's gigantic, but it's like bigger than the tire itself. Yeah, right? But this is a bike. This is a bike pedal, okay? This is a bike pedal. We're pretending. We're allowed to pretend this is in our class, okay? Yeah. It's Big Bird. It's Snuffleupagus' bike pedal. Right, okay. So I need to have, if you look at a bike pedal, there's actually a whole bunch of little spikes on the top that give you a little bit of grip, okay, when you put your feet on there. Now, as I mentioned before, it's not about working hard. It's about working smart. I want to make one of these grips initially and then clone them to get a whole bunch of them. So let's make the grips. I'm just going to use a square. Once again, I'm going to use that work plane trick just to kind of roughly get it in location. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Let's push it down over here. It's a little bit bigger than I want it to be. And let's make the chop shape here a little bit more interesting. There we go. There it is. So I want that shape cloned 1,000 times, right? I want it to run the full length of my bike pedal. I could certainly very well come in here, and this is what we've done in other assignments. This is why you're going to hate me today. You can do edit, copy, edit, paste, you know, move it out there like that. You have another one. Yeah. You can also remember this from the Parthenon. You guys hated me when I told you this about the Parthenon, right? You can hold down Control and Shift and drag out a copy like that, right? Yeah, but now that you guys are veterans, we can talk about the awesomeness of the duplication tools because we can do this better. because I want the distance between each of my clones, between each of my duplicates, to be identical to each other, right? I don't want there to be any sort of variation, and I want to do this very, very, very quickly, okay? So if we return to our duplication tools, what we're looking for is clone right here, okay? The clone tool is going to make copies, but it's only ever going to make copies in a straight line, okay? Radial array, circles. Clone, straight lines, okay? Let's just do it real fast. It's pretty fun. You have to make sure that the thing that you want to duplicate is selected before you turn the tool on, and then you just simply left-click inside the scene. Now, when you left-click inside the scene, you're going to get some action handles. I got to zoom out. When you start pulling the action handles apart from each other, we get a clone, okay? The number of clones determines how many copies of the original shape you're going to make, okay? This is also kind of fun. If you've already pulled one out, if you've already pulled one out, as I have, adding more will copy them in a straight line, and it'll keep the distances the same. That's pretty cool, huh? Now, while the tool is still live, you can just change the location of your clones by interactively adjusting the action handles. You can actually do this along all three axes, but it's always going to go in a straight line, which is pretty neat. I like this one. Check this out. In addition, you can do the number of clones, but there's also the offset. That's what we were interacting with when we were doing the action handle in the center, right? But check it out. We can also do scale and rotate. This is pretty neat, right? Let's do rotate first because it's the easiest to understand the system. Every time it makes a copy, we can rotate it a little bit. Like, for example, let's rotate it 15 degrees. So every duplicate is going to get rotated 15 degrees. That's pretty cool. Okay. We can even do it on all three axes. Shoot, we can even make it so that every duplicate is going to get slightly smaller than this previous duplicate. Okay. So maybe each duplicate is 90% smaller. Oops, we got small pretty fast. Let's do not 90%. Let's do 95%. There we go. So now, here's the first one. Second one is 95% the size of the first one. Number 3 is 95% the size of number 2, and so on and so forth. And it just gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Okay, a great way to kind of almost programmatically have a shape trail off, woo, like that. It's pretty neat. And then eventually, once we get down to the last one, it's just so small it's disappeared. Okay, let's put this back to 100 because I don't want to scale it, and I don't want to rotate it. But one of the challenges that we have when working with these duplicates is figuring out the distance between them. Because oftentimes, and I'm going to put the number of clones back to 1, oftentimes we can figure out, okay, I want to have that one there, and maybe the last one can go over here, right? That's easy, because I can just kind of eyeball or make some sort of measuring stick to determine where that last clone is going to be. Now, I want the computer to fill in the distance between the first and the last, and this is where the Moto modeling toolset really kind of shines, because we have an option here called between. If between is on, the first and the last one stay where they are, but now it's going to put one in the middle. Okay? And I keep adding, and now they're evenly distributed between the first and the last. It's pretty rad. It's very rad, actually. I like it very much. Okay? That's pretty sweet. Okay? So now I have a whole bunch of these little tread things that we can use to make like the other side. And I'm on my way. Okay? I'm on my way. Now the ones down here at the bottom, I'd have to probably physically, you know, if I was doing this, I'd probably make a true corner piece, an L shape and a J shape one, and then I have some duplicates in here that I rotate 90 degrees and do the same thing. Now the problem that we have with the clone tools is that the product of the clone tool is always going to be true geometry, right? What if I make a change? Or what if my modeling supervisor comes in and says, Pat, I love what you've done, but I really hate your treads, right? I really hate the little peggy things on top of your bike pedals. And I go, thanks, man. You could have like said that nicer, right? You didn't have to like completely crush my ego, right? You didn't have to say you hated it, right? You could have said we could have done better, right? Or let's look at options, or the other tactful ways of telling someone that their work sucks, right? But we need to make a change. Now, we have a lot of these clones that we now need to make a change to, right? So this system kind of is a great way to prototype things quickly, but it can also turn into a barrier if we're not careful with it, right? I think this is best seen back on my spokes, because check this out, right? What we're doing here is component level duplication. We're just making copies of polygons. That's all we're doing, right? It's kind of the lowest level, if you will, of duplication inside of our scene. There's actually one other level of duplication that I think is just a little bit more powerful, but with great power comes great responsibility. You have to manage your scene a little bit more directly to get these very powerful results. Instead of doing component level duplication, so duplicating polygons, edges, and vertices, what if we do item level duplication, okay? Because item level duplication gives us more power, okay? I'm going to take my spoke here, and while this is a great piece of geometry, I'm going to delete everything but those things, get rid of all the other spokes. I'm going to take my spoke, and I'm going to pop it into its own mesh item, okay? I don't want to model just the components. I want to duplicate the entire item to get some additional power. So let's create a new mesh item. We're going to call this mesh item spoke. Okay. And I'm going to I'm going to cut and paste the polygons from this mesh item. So Command X to cut, Command paste, Command V to paste. There we go. And now I have my wheel on one layer and my spoke on another. Let's name this real fast. There we go. All right. So now I want to work with this thing entirely for the rest of the day. So we're still going to use the Origin Action Center as the foundation for this entire radial array, but we're going to change what the product of this entire modeling operation is going to be. We're going to create what's called an instance, okay? An instance is a pretty special object for us, okay? Since we're working on items now, I'm going to go out. I'm going to go out of my polygon selection state. When this is on, we're selecting polygons. When it's off, we're selecting items. So we're selecting everything on this layer right here. I only want to duplicate the spokes, which is why I put them on their own layer, right? If I had the spokes, the axle, and the wheel all in this one thing, and I did an item level duplication, what would get duplicated? Yeah, the wheel, the spokes, and the axle. I only want to duplicate the spokes, so I put them on their own item. Okay, let's change my action center to origin, but this time, instead of doing a radial array, okay, check it out. The icons are a different color now, right? They used to be green a second ago. Now they're, what would you call it? Is that purple? Is it blue? Midnight blue. Midnight blue. Is it maybe, I don't know, maybe it's a grape color? It's not green, okay? I know that, right? When the icons are all green, you're duplicating components, polygons. When it's this purpley blue, now you're duplicating an item, an entire layer, if you will, okay? See, the tool is going to act the exact same way, but what we get at the outset of this entire operation is going to be a little bit different. So here we go. I'm duplicating a whole bunch of items around the z-axis. Boom, okay? Now on the surface, looks the same, right? But check out our item list, okay? Yeah, now we have a whole bunch of spokes, right? Now this is all well and good, and in certain situations you want this, right? Because Moto loves us some items, okay? We can animate each item individually. We can break them apart. I can run them through a dynamic simulation. I can shatter all of these things, which is always really kind of fun, right? So we like items. Items actually are a really good thing. But in our case, this turns into an unmanageable big mess. Okay, I'm going to hit undo, go back in time. However, this time what we're going to do is that we're going to do an instance. Because remember the idea, we want to model smart. And we want to model in a way that allows for like an art director or a producer to come in and say, Pat, I love your spokes, but maybe the little connector down at the bottom is too big, or maybe we need to add some detail in the middle. Well, I don't want to have to do that 24 different times, or maybe 48 different times for the front wheel and the back wheel. No, I don't want to do that, right? That's a lot of editing. Maybe I edit one, and that change cascades to all of its duplicates instantly. This is called instancing, where the geometry is fed from a master into a whole series of subs. Okay, check it out. It's pretty easy to set up and to create. It's a little hidden though, okay? If you hold down the Option key, our icons go from the purpley blue to pink. Pink is the convention inside of Moto for instances, okay? Let's do the instance radial array this time. So I'm holding down the Option key. Tool works identically, but the outcome is going to be different. Bloop. Around the z-axis, please. Again, you're probably saying, Pat, this is rad. It looks identical to the way it did last time. And I'd say, you're right. Look at the item list. We're no longer getting the standard blue mesh item icon. These are mesh items, independent, non-referenced to any other geometry, right? These are instances. They're still items. I can move these around, okay? Check it out. So here's number 2. I can still go in and move this guy around. I can rotate him. I can even animate this guy, right? But what I can't do on an instance is select the geometry, okay? I can't go in. See, I'm trying to select all the polygons right now. Not working, okay? I broke it, right? The geometry for all of the instances is referencing the geometry of the original, of the master, which in our case is just called spoke. Now, what we get from this, and this will probably be the real obvious edit, is that we can start editing these shapes a little bit, okay? And whatever we do to one is going to be done instantly to the rest, okay? I'm going to turn group polygons back on. And now what we can do is very quickly make changes to our mesh, okay? And know that all of its partners in this entire crazy deal are getting the exact same. I don't know why I don't want to do that, but I just did, okay? Reminds me, I remember when I was growing up, we had these little beads on the spokes of our wheels. Kim knows what I'm talking about. You ride down, they slide down your spokes. Kind of reminds me of what we got going on here. Yeah. Yeah, of course you got to put the classic card. Yep. All right. So instances also give us a render boost. Okay. This is not a great example because the geometry is very, very light. But since the rendering engine is only looking at one mesh item to figure out the geometry of the spokes, it takes not as much processing power to render complex objects like this. So we get a benefit, a render benefit. It's going to render faster on very, very complex scenes, okay? Yeah, it's pretty neat. I like working with instances very, very much. You make a change to one, and they all change. I did this wonderful, wonderful example where I remember I built the inside of a house, okay? It was a 2-story model, and the railing going up the stairs had little spindles on them, right? And I remember my boss coming in and say, okay, this is cool, but we need to change the edge profile of the spindles. Well, I did it with instances, right? And I said, hey, don't go anywhere. Let's figure out this thing together, right? And in about 2 seconds, we just made one spindle for the railing going up the side, and all of them updated immediately, right? It's fantastic. Instances are great, especially when you have objects like this that are carbon copy clones of each other that are all identical. Now, managing these instances at times can be a little bit of a pain in the butt. Okay, I want to go back in time a couple steps. Pre-instancing, I'm hitting undo right now. Okay, there we go. Okay, great. So let's do it one more time. Grab my item. Which option or which key do I hold down to do the instance? Option. instance radial array. Now before I click and do the exact same thing, down here at the bottom under the item effector, we have some options that I think are really important to point out. Okay, the parent, this is how they're going to show up inside of the item list itself. When it's off, we're going to get what we had just 2 seconds ago, just like 24 items inside of our scene. What I usually do is that I turn this to root, okay? And this is going to put all the instances underneath the master, okay? Yeah, kind of like a folder. So here's the master, and then there's all the instances, okay? Makes it a little bit easier to see and understand the role of these instances and which item is controlling the instance.
So for the option keys on Windows, what is it?
The Alt key. It'd be the Alt key. Yep, you got it. Good question. All right. So start utilizing this system for your homework, okay? The chain on the bike, okay? You model one link and then you clone it, okay? It's not about modeling 1,000 different ones. We can do this pretty quickly, okay? The bike, the wheels themselves, the spokes themselves, the gears themselves, these are all items that we can very, very, very quickly duplicate, okay? Now, our duplication system can go a whole lot further if we choose to, and this is just kind of a representation of how far this crazy system can go, because the technology in Moto is pretty legit. I love the duplication system in Moto. There's some really fun things in here that allow us to work at scale. Now, I just want you to see this. I don't want you to kind of learn this. This is just kind of a, hey, this is where we're going with this idea, right? Because once we start extending this system, we can really start to uncover the power of what we can do, okay? I'm going to do this. This is my favorite example to use. I have, as part of the, we all have inside of our mesh preset library. Have you ever wondered why there was a chicken? That's not where I was going with this, but yes, I've always wondered why there's a rubber chicken, right? Okay, so here is, whoa. All right, here's our good old Alfa Romeo. This is one of the car models that come with Moto. Looking pretty stellar, right? Pretty awesome. Let's give it a little small environment to live in here. And let's start really pushing our duplication system a little bit. Whoops. Yeah, I'm making a parking lot, basically. Now I'm actually going to put this on its own layer. There we go. Okay, so here's my alpha. Looking pretty great, okay? Let's render this just as is. I want to put it off on the side to give me some room over here to put some clones in here. And I just want us to look at the stats real fast, because this is pretty crazy. We work with some pretty amazing technology in front of us that allows us to do literally whatever we want, okay? I'm so happy for you guys that you're entering into the world of computer graphics where you are, because I remember, and this is back in my day, you know, I remember when modeling something like this took hours and hours and hours and hours, right? And here, within about 30 seconds, we're going to push out a really damn good-looking render, okay, of a very high-resolution model of an Alfa Romeo, okay? Now let's look at the stats. So it took 39 seconds to render, and at 1280 by 720, and down here, we rendered almost 1 million polygons, okay? So 1 million polygons, 39 seconds, that's not too bad, right? Let's look at the difference. Same thing now, oops. Same thing. Let's just do a straight up duplicate of our alpha. There we go. Now I have two. These are just straight up independent items, right? Let's add a third one into the mix as well. I want to make sure I'm duplicating the item, by the way. There we go. Let's move these guys back a little bit. Let's make an awesome car commercial. This is how they always do in the car commercials, right? They're all lined up. They really do. They're always at a diagonal. Why are they always at a diagonal? So you can see all of them, right? All right, so now I got 3 alphas. Let's pretend that I'm making a car commercial. Let's render it now. As one might imagine, how many polygons are we going to be rendering? If one was almost 1 million, yeah, just under 3. Let's see how long it takes to render. And then we're going to do the exact same thing with instances and get a good understanding of how much savings that instance actually creates for us. These are independent items, so the computer is evaluating each of these items' geometry cache separately. So it really is looking at 3 million. Ooh,
Sorry.
it's so good.
Yeah, add a little.
Thank you. Oh,
It's metal, that's why.
yep. You really are rendering true 3 million polygons here. Okay. And with some reflections on the ground, which is why it's taking a little bit longer than I was hoping it would, but that's okay. We'll just sit and let this chew for a second. Right, now that would be pretty entertaining. The computer company that turns like their render windows into a little game would be fantastic.
This reminds me of like Snake.
Yeah.
Yeah, did you know when you're down on the internet and Google says, hey, you can't connect, you can play a game?
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, you play, yeah, with the little T-Rex and you have to jump over stuff.
So almost 3 million polygons, okay? In, drum roll please, in a minute 20. That's not so bad. A minute 20, 3 million polygons, and we've got 3 really great alpha romance. So that's what it looks like when we're working with just true, regular item duplicates, right? Let's do the exact same thing, but now we're going to use instances, okay? And you don't have to use the cloning tools to create instances. You can actually do it over here as well. So right-click, and then duplicate as an instance. Same thing, it's going to turn pink, the exact same functionality. And no, you can't duplicate, you can't make an instance of an instance, unfortunately. That would be pretty cool, we can't do that. Okay, roughly the exact same thing, all right? Let's render it again, see what we get. 3 mil, minute 20, yeah.
If I do that, can I choose the color of one of those cars, or are they all stuck in red?
They're all stuck at red, yeah. That's okay, we're going to extend this a little bit. We're going to get crazy here in a minute. It's going to be fun. I love crazy days. We're going to see if we can break Moto. Does anyone want to come on this adventure with me? See if we can break it? Yes. Yeah, I want to break Moto. I want to see if I can melt my little iMac.
All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to
Game on, right?
Okay, what you do is you grab one surface and every other complicated project you've ever done. You're going to melt your computer. Yeah, I've done that.
All right, if you look carefully, we're actually still rendering 3 million polygons. Let's see if we get a bump in our speed. Of course, Moto is going to choose not to work with me today. And knowing my luck, it's actually going to take longer than it did the other one. After I said, hey, you get a render bump.
It's like it has too many problems.
That's been my entire day today. Moto just saying no.
Isn't that every 3D modeler's day?
Oh, it's going to be close. It's going to be almost the exact same, and we got about a second, a second faster. But yeah, it's the red. It doesn't like the red. So it actually did go a little bit faster, about a second. However,
It had to still render the material on it?
say again.
Is it because it still had to render the material?
Yeah, and they're shiny reflective things. Shiny reflective things take a long time to render. Yeah, they do. We're doing true ray tracing, so the lights are casting physical little rays out into the scene that are bouncing off the surfaces of our geometry and creating, these wonderful reflections and refractions, okay? But this is pretty neat. I like this. What if we take it one step further? Have you ever wondered how like these big visual effects companies do like cities? Right? You see this all the time in commercial advertisements. I think, what is it, the CarMax guys and gals, the commercials they have where you get to, I remember CarMax had a whole advertising campaign where they had like 1,000 cars on a highway, and then the voiceover was some woman shopping for cars like, I want to have a red one, and then like all the cars, because instantly got, now you just see all the red ones, and you have like 100 red ones, and it's like, I want to have a red one that's like a Dodge Charger, and then they see like 8 Dodge Chargers. Let's see, from 2000 to 2001, then they have 3 ones. Oh, with a CD player, and then it had just that one car at the end. I think that was a CarMax commercial. Anyways.
Yeah, it's like, and no reported accidents.
Yeah, exactly. That's the commercial, right? Well, we have to have a system that allows us to take simple models and scale it to a high-end crazy level. Did you guys see, well, they did it for the first Avengers film. They've done it actually a couple times now, where, the first Avengers film, they made a scale model of New York City. Yeah, an honest scale model of New York City, right? Including with people and cars. I mean, I've seen the model. It is ridiculous, right? Yeah, well, they didn't, they weren't going in there and like hand placing every single building, right? That would be, no, you're not going to do that. You're not going to go in, a modeler is not going to go in and hand place like every light pole, okay, on the seats. They're not going to do that. There has to be a better duplication system that allows us to duplicate things at scale, okay? And this is pretty fun. I always get really energized when we look at this. Let's get rid of this, okay? We're not going to use instances anymore. I'm going to create a parking lot of Alfa Romeos, okay? And this is going to be a whole lot of fun. Okay. Oh, this is, like I said, we're breaking Moto today. Yeah, we're breaking Moto today. Like I said, I want a parking lot of Alfa Romeos, right? So here's my parking lot. Did you wonder why I made my parking lot so big? I bet you sort of like, why is it making it so big? You only see a little bit part of it. Yeah, there's a master plan to this. Okay, check this out. This is actually some really fun technology that I enjoy, right? We have another item inside of our system. They're called replicators, okay? And replicators allow us to create high-frequency duplicates, okay? We can't really control them super directly. We're not going to be able to go in and select polygons anymore, right? But at times, especially in our parking lot, we don't need, the modeling's done, we just need 1,000 of these things, right? So let's create a replicator real fast, right? These replicators are neat, and I'm addicted to replicators, actually. I replicate everything. Now, with a replicator, you need a couple things. You need a prototype, which is going to be our Alfa Romeo, okay? And we also need a point source, which in ours is just going to be the mesh. And there we go. And there's my parking lot full of Alfa Romeos, okay? So,
Just like to truly crash butter, loading the pirate ship next.
let me get, sorry, those are the spokes of the wheel. Although that is pretty neat, right? That's a pretty fly-looking Alfa Romeo. Let's turn the spokes off. Okay. So here is my infinite parking lot of Alfa Romeos. Are you impressed with my little boxes? Yes. Yeah, they're pretty great. Let's actually take a look at what they look like, because each one of those boxes, in all honesty, is, drumroll please, an Alfa Romeo, which is pretty rad. Okay. Now, once Preview starts to collect a whole bunch of samples, it'll refine it, and now I have an infinite parking lot of Alfa Romeos. That's pretty neat. In OpenGL, it's one thing. Let's actually render it.
You want a red Alfa Romeo? We got plenty of them.
We got plenty of them. Now, what we're doing here is that we are actually duplicating particles, okay? And this is how the big dogs do. When we're rendering out entire cities, you're not rendering out, or you're not placing individual meshes. You're creating a whole series of particles, and then each particle is assigned a piece of geometry, and then that geometry is rendered. But since they're particles, we can go in and continue to adjust those particles at any time that we want. And these replicators render wicked fast, okay? So right now, I am rendering 1.08 billion polygons. Let me prove it to you. 1.08 billion polygons. You better go fast, Because probably by the time you get out the door, it's going to be done rendering. I know this seems kind of silly because you're like, Pat, this is moving pretty slow. This is not slow in the terms of rendering, okay? Remember, I'm rendering 1 billion polygons right now. 1 billion, that's pretty redonkulous. It's going to take a couple minutes to render this out, but it's doing it. Other apps would just be like, and then just crash, right? You know, yeah, right, yeah.
Or your computer No, just your computer catches on fire.
Yeah, no, right? There's a lot of that. Okay, I'm actually going to stop it because I want to show you guys one other thing. Because when, right? No, let it crash? No. All right. So one of the things that's kind of neat about this entire system is that these replicators can be adjusted, and I can go in and continue to play around with the particles, okay? So maybe I want to give it like a little random scale. Maybe I want some Alfa Romeos to be big, some to be small, okay? Let's do like 20%. Maybe some are twisted. Let's do like 15 degrees, okay? And you can see that now I got some big ones, I got some small ones. Let's increase the size. Let's do 50. Yeah, now I got some itty bitty small Alfa Romeos and some giant Alfa Romeos. Do you like that? Yeah, now I got some big ones and I got some small ones, which is really fun.
So how would you do it? Like, I don't want just that Alfa Romeo. I want to throw in some spiders and some GTV6s.
Let's do it.
Milanos. Like, how do you
Yeah.
give it a set of different Alfa Romeos and just like randomly throw them out?
Here, hold my beer.
What?
Here, hold my beer, as they say.
I want different ones.
Different ones. Okay, let's do this. I'm going to bring in the rubber chicken right now. Let's do it. Okay, I want to bring in, let's see, let's do a toy car. We'll do the hybrid. You know, you got to give the dump truck. And let's do the rubber chicken, because every example needs to have a rubber chicken. Please don't crash on me right now. Okay, and the cartoon chicken is going to get some love as well. Right. All right, so I'm going to turn off my replicators before this really goes bad. Oh, the garbage truck is huge. Okay, we're not going to use the garbage truck because it's just too big for what we're doing. The garbage truck is not scaled appropriately, but the cartoon chicken, the bus, everything's in there. I'm going to make the, where is my cartoon chicken? The cartoon chicken's teeny tiny. So I'm going to make the cartoon chicken big because, yeah, the chicken needs to be bigger, right? Okay, so now we have,
Pat has gone insane.
right? Okay, now we're having fun. Now we're having fun. All right, so what I'm going to do, because this is one of the cool things, is I got to select all of these things. And I'm going to put them in a group, okay? I'm going to create a new group. And let's just call these cars and chicken. All right. I want to make sure that all of this stuff is turned off. Okay. Now, on the replicator, I'm not going to feed just a singular prototype. I want to feed it the group. Okay? And it's going to randomly pick which members of the group to place at each one of my particles. Okay? Bloop. Okay. I am. Let's see.
No, he's actively trying to break Moto.
All right. Let's see. Now all my replicators disappeared. Vi.
I would laugh if Moto refused to work for him for the next week.
They're going to go on strike, maybe. Let's see.
Do they mean one class?
Now, my replicator got disabled somehow.
Wow. Is Moto
Wait.
saying no?
It may be saying no. Well, that's okay.
Do it anyways.
Hold on a sec. Let's get rid of that dark garbage truck.
Now try it.
Yep. All right. I'll tell you what. Let's just rebuild the replicator. I hope this works, because it's so much fun when we do this. Point source is going to be mesh. There we go. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
We will
All right.
not be able to fix Moto after this.
Here we go.
I don't think it's really going to crash Moto. Why?
For all of
Go! And
There we go. So we have more buses than we probably should at the moment, but
It went a little bus happy.
yeah, it went a little. But you know, this is the cool thing about doing it, right? I can actually go over and say, hey, change the seed. And now I have a different pattern. We'll update here in a second. Still a little bus heavy, but
more buses.
more buses. Let's put it at, I don't know.
Turn it down. Oh no. Oh no.
Yeah, and there's some tiny cars. Teeny tiny, yep. Including some rubbing chickens. I'm not going to go into this next bit, but you can even go into, like, if it was just the cars in the group, I can even go in and say, give me a random color value for each one of the cars. You know, yeah. So I have some pink ones, some blue ones, some white ones, some black ones. This is how we duplicate things at scale. Do you think when they're, when you see these big films, that people are actually going in and placing like individual trees? No. They're using duplication systems like this to give us that high frequency detail across the entire scene itself. Okay. Yeah, it's pretty powerful. We get some legit technology at our disposal. Okay, so use it. Use it. It's a tool for us to use. Now, the replicator system, if you want to know more about replicators, there's some great resources out there that I would recommend that you go check out. Okay, I use replicators a lot. Like all of my environmental stuff, I use replicators, right? And replicators literally give us the ability to go in and start simulating blades of grass and replicating chunks of grass all over our environment, which is pretty rad. Okay, so there's a lot of reference out there for replicators. For us, we're not going to be using replicators for our bicycle. But use these tools, the radial array, the clone tool. These are really great tools. The mirror tool, which we talked about a little bit before. These are really great tools that will allow us to duplicate things quickly. It's not about working hard. It's about working smart. Use the tools that are at your disposal, and I think you're going to find that the accuracy and your ability to create within a timeline is going to increase. Okay? Which is really kind of what we're here to do. So your homework this week is going to be a bicycle. As I mentioned before, if the reference image produces some sort of detail on the bicycle, you should look to include that, right? We're going down to handlebars, right? The grips on the handlebars. You can do that easily with the Bevel Tool. There's a tremendous amount of stuff that we can add into the details of our bike just by looking at the pictures, okay? However, paint with a broad brushstroke immediately. If you guys go in and start adding like the treads on the tire on step number 2, I'm going to say stop, okay? Because how can you really put the treads on the tire if you haven't fleshed out the frame of the bike? Or how can you figure out the size of the frame of the bike without figuring out the size of the wheels of the bike, okay? So paint with a broad brushstroke for as long as you can. And then start layering in interior detail just as we've done on every single project from here. Before this. Okay? Sound good? Everyone understanding the mission that's in front of us? You guys freaking out?
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit? Good. No, you're supposed to freak out. It's good. That means you care. Okay?
We didn't succeed in freaking Moto.
Yeah. Yeah.
Moto has limits, but somehow we managed to exceed them, but Pat doesn't.
I don't know. It knows we're new to this.
Yeah. No, I just send it some good vibes. I send it some good energy every day. I think of Moto like it's like my work friend, You don't want to treat your colleagues at work like garbage. You don't yell at them, right? You don't bang on them when they do wrong things. You say, it's okay. We're going to get through this together.
Pat, obviously
right?
you have a very strong connection to your computer.
Yeah, you should. You should send some positive vibes to your computers, right?
I have a
So
question.
at
How
the
long
end
have you
of
been
the
teaching
semester,
here?
are you going to show us ZBrush?
I can show you ZBrush. I'd be more than happy to show you ZBrush. It's a lot of fun. ZBrush is another application that I can't recommend people get into enough. Yeah, it's great. For characters, it's really, really, really great. I don't recommend it enough. Yeah. For Moto, if you're doing hard surface stuff, or if you're doing basically anything but characters, Moto probably has the best direct modeling tool set on the business, in my opinion. All right, other questions about your homework? Good luck. May the force be with you, and I'll see you guys next week.
I need more than 4, more than